Hello, and welcome to Lit by Moonlight, where it's not a phase to go absolutely insane, just completely apeshit.
Yeah. For 11 months straight. Or 12 months, or however long it's been now.
However long it takes to make a baby. So, Caitlin, what are we talking about this week?
Today, we are talking about Our Flag Means Death, Season 1, Episode 10, Wherever You Go, There You Are.
I'm Emberlyn, and I can't believe they've done this to me.
I'm Caitlin, and is Season 2 out yet?
Oh, good question.
Where is it?
So,
I hope by now, by the time we put this episode out, that it's either starting to air or we at least have a date.
Yeah.
I would like to know.
I feel like if that's the case, we at least owe our viewers an update and our listeners.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Editing Caitlin, and my cat who decided to be here for the update. And that update is, we have no update. There's nothing. We have no new information. Today it is March 21st. The episode airs on the 24th. And we recorded this in January, and we still have nothing. No air date, no release date, not even a poster. So we continue to clown in this household. I agree. It is kind of bullshit. Yep, we have no new information. She's really upset. She loved the show so much. But yeah, you want to say hi? You want to say, where's season 2? She doesn't even know where she is, so why would she know where that season 2 is? Anyway. Let's see if this season exists at this point, and we'll be here when we have new news. Okay, enjoy the rest of the episode.
So, Caitlin, this episode is another heavy one for many reasons. In part because we see the aftermath of Steed's decision to leave and go back to Mary, and how that affects pretty much everyone around him. Mm-hmm. We see Mary kind of grappling with having Steed back and the fact that he already seems to be taking up too much room in her already very full life. Yeah. We see Ed mourning, grieving, going through a breakup, healing, not healing, murdering, etc. Wow. Lots of things. And then we see Izzy kind of trying to counteract all of that by turning Ed back into Blackbeard, the captain that he knows and loves. Like every toxic ex does best, turning you back into someone you're no longer are anymore. Wow. And then we have Steed recognizing that his true love really is Ed, and putting together a fuckery with the intention of getting back to him, and in the process helping Mary's life go back to the way it was before Steed returned.
Yay!
So, Caitlin, what hooked you in this episode?
I really love that this episode started from Mary's point of view, and how we got to see her life and how she's absolutely thriving without Steed. There are so many parts in this episode where I'm just like, oh, good for her. Like that Arrested Development meme, just like, good for her.
Peeling a cupcake, yeah.
Oh, she's just living her best life. She's playing with her children. She's in love with someone who loves her back. Mm-hmm. She has this great painting career that she never got to do before.
She has a great relationship with her children.
She's just absolutely vibing and thriving.
Yeah. That was mine as well.
Yeah.
It was just really lovely to see her come out of her shell. Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of writers don't end up giving, the alternative love interest, so to speak, in a story. And I'm glad that she got that instead of some weird villain, I'm nothing without you type perspective. I really like that she got to grow in her and kind of utilize her widow identity to her advantage to help her become a better painter.
Good for her.
So awesome. And then the other thing that really hooked me in this episode was Ed doing what all people do when they're heartbroken and writing song lyrics. Yeah. But specifically that his song lyrics were a lot about hanging on by a thread and whether or not he should let go. Clearly a nod to him trying to determine whether or not he should let go of Ed, and kind of he's hanging on by a thread to who he really is deep down, but at the same time, there's a potential of him falling off and becoming the Kraken fully, completely, and utterly, devastatingly, sadly. I pull out the thesaurus. Painfully, hurtfully, agonizingly.
14 minutes later.
Ow! So, Caitlin, what was your favorite part from episode 10?
Oh, my favorite scene is how does it feel to be in love that whole scene. This is my favorite scene in the entire season, and it's one because of how sweet it is, and two because when I first watched it, it made me bawl my little eyes out so much. I cried again today. I think I cry every time I watch it because it's just so beautiful, and it really made me like, even though they kissed in the last episode,
right,
and that should have, you would think, would be like confirmation enough that like they're doing this has been a love story the entire time, like yay, there you go. This scene in particular really just like, it really like set in the fact that they've been planning this from the beginning. Yeah. And that montage of scenes of Ed and Steed's time together with Mary's voiceover of being like, oh, like he knows all my idiosyncrasies, we make each other laugh, we learn from each other, like laid across all of these things that we've seen all season. It really just like proved where I'm like, oh, they've been planning this from the beginning. Yeah. They wanted to do this. Right. Like, this has been this was the plan the entire time. Intention. They didn't just throw it together last minute because people are yelling.
What if they kissed right now?
Yeah. And it's just so beautifully done. And I like that it wasn't even like all of the moments that you would think it would be. Like, I like that in Steed's, as he's like thinking about all their time together, we don't see the moonlight scene. Yeah. We don't see like the bathtub scene where that was a more intimate scene with them. We don't even see the kiss in that scene, which is, I think, really important to where he's like looking back on all these moments where he thought, oh, wow, he's a really good friend and I really like him. But I don't know what this other thing is. But we're having a good time. Like, I really like that it showed like all of those moments, and also like the scene where, you know, Ed stabs a knife by that guy and is like threatening him, and Steve's like, Steve loves that part of Ed.
He showed me something new.
Yeah. And I just think it like shows that like he loves all parts of him, like no matter what. And so I thought, I think that scene is so beautifully done, and just for Mary to look at Steve and be like, I hope you find that someday, and for him to confirm that he had, and that his name is Ed. It was so beautiful. And for Mary to just like smile and like hug him afterwards was so comforting. Yes. And just so lovely in the fact that she's just like, I think it was also comforting for her in the fact where she's like, she wasn't the problem in the relationship. Because like, as we stated before, like when Steed and her were like married and everything, she was the one putting all the effort in. And like, she didn't want to be there either, but like, you gotta do what you have to make it work. Yeah. So I think it was really nice for Mary to hear that and to like be like, it wasn't you. And like obviously Steve's like, I'm happy that you have Doug, and like Doug is great, like happy for you, keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna go do my thing now too. And that they can both be happy at the end of this.
I don't want to skip ahead too much, but that was actually one of my favorite quotes in the entire episode is like, it feels easy. It's just like breathing. He understands my idiosyncrasies, finds them charming even. We expose each other to new things, new ideas. We laugh a lot. We just pass the time so well together. Yeah. That's gotta be like, that's really prose. Like that's Jane Austen, maybe not. Yeah, actually, yeah. Like Jane Austen level prose in some ways. Yeah. Because I don't know. First of all, like the line about how Doug understands Mary's idiosyncrasies and how that applies directly to Steed and like his little niche things and the way that he is so special. Yeah. And I think it also speaks to like the larger notion of like the love that Steed and Ed share, and like what a wonderful thing it can be to love somebody for even like the silliest bits about them, like the little strange things they do. So for example, my partner, he likes to wake up in the middle of the night and like just say things. Like he just talks a lot in his sleep. It's kind of creepy. It's actually terrifying. Some of the things he says are horrifying, not in the sense that he's like, ooh, you know, I'm gonna kill a cat, but like it's more just like, what's that thing on the wall over there? Terrifying, but I adore it. You know, it's cute. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, maybe it's not something that everybody would be able to tolerate, but because you love them, you care for it so deeply. It's like, you know, like, oh, whenever they laugh, they get this little crinkle in their nose, something like that, you know? So I really appreciate that. Yeah. This is kind of hard for me because I think I had a couple not honorable mentions, but favorite parts. Mary and Steed scene being one of them. Another being when Jim grabs Alu's face and kisses him.
Yeah. It was so cute.
Another completely underrated television kiss because when they last left each other, there was some hesitancy about them kissing. And now that Jim's back, somehow
no explanation needed.
they just leap at Alu because it's like they've had time to work through these things and now they're back and they're ready. I love that.
It's so cute.
But yeah, to that point about Jim just randomly appearing back on the ship, something we've been talking about a lot recently is like David Jenkins Logic. or just like the logic of our flag means death, which is like, it kind of sometimes doesn't make sense. This is something I noticed last episode when they had Ed in the holding cell when the British arrived in the ship. I'm sorry, but like, y'all had a holding cell in the ship the entire time and you just never put the hostages there. When you had them early in the season, you were keeping them out like in the sun. You were like, yeah. When they ran away in like the second episode of the season, you didn't think, we should just keep them in the holding cell. No.
Wait, I never thought about that.
Like, hello?
Until just now.
Like,
yeah, why not?
Yeah, the logic is so funny. And that's how I know Lucius, after all he's been through, is still alive. Because
he's
why
fine.
would he be dead, you know?
There was never a moment where I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. Like, when I first watched it and he goes over, I'm like, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's not that show.
It's
not
funny.
That type of show.
It's not that show. And that's what I love about it is, like, as somebody who grew up with Sherlock, I think, like, the Stephen Moffat Margaitis logic is very much like, here's how he died. Here's a couple complex theories of how he died. And like, it's like
we're cleverer than you.
Yeah, it's like like Charlie with the
with the
board with all of those
with
things
the
from It's Always Sunny, yeah. Pepe Sylvia, yeah. And like, there's so much conspiracy, and it's like, oh, how do you do it? You know, and you have to we spent all this time when we were kids just like haunted by how Sherlock could have like
survived,
died. You know what? This is not spoiler-free review of Sherlock. If you haven't watched that in the past 10 years, that's on you.
Also, lucky you.
Or maybe that's the best thing you could have done for yourself.
Yeah.
But
Good job.
But I like that this show doesn't spend a lot of time on those details.
Yeah.
Because it's already very detail-oriented in its own way. And it doesn't need to, you know?
They could come back season 2 and show that Lucius survived by floating by his one wooden finger. And I'd be like, 100%, yeah, let's go.
That would be hilarious also. Like, hello. And to that point, too, it's like, you don't need to spend time on all those things when you're making a good show, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't matter how Jim got back to the ship. All that matters is that they're there now and they're kissing Olu.
And it's not, even like, I'm sorry, I just like short-circuited thinking about that.
Okay.
But it's not even like, and it's not even like, a plot issue. Like, it's not something that I'm like, wait, how did that happen? You know,
yeah, it's not a plot hole.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter.
I don't know why it doesn't matter, but it just doesn't. I think it's just because the show is good by itself. It doesn't have to withstand like perfect logic in order to function.
Yeah.
Which is something that other shows I think lean on too heavily and pride themselves in, and that's where they get kind of messed up down the line when they do make a plot hole.
There's definitely like some shows where it's like, okay, but we need an explanation for how this person lives, but also like, at the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah. I to this day I wonder what the plane had to do with anything. And don't worry, darling, Olivia, if you're out there, call me. And then another scene that really got me was the end, because as soon as Avalanche by Leonard Cohen starts, and this is like the end scene where Ed's suiting up. I mean, first of all, obsessed with this scene because of the zooms on him putting the jacket back on and loading his knives.
Good stuff.
One of my favorite scenes, I think, in the entire season. I think about this scene all the time. I talk to other people about it because there's almost this very like, and I don't, it's weird for me to say this because of the ambience in this scene, like the mood, but it's very Wes Anderson to have him like loading up all of his knives and like putting back on his whole character. It's just like, you could honestly lay like some ukulele music or like one of those like a harpsichord over it and you just be quirky. But it's also fantastic. Yeah. Like, because it's literally, you're closing, like the world is closing in on him. He's coming back to Blackbeard. Like, it's such a good scene. It literally is one of my favorites in like ever.
I like that you say it like the world is closing in on him.
It is.
That's a really good. Yeah.
How about you? What was yours?
Another favorite of mine is that, like, I always forget it happens. Like, again, not that I forgot that it happens because it haunts me, but like whenever I'm watching the show, I'm like so immersed in what's happening that like once another scene starts playing, I go, oh no, I forgot.
What's happening now?
What now?
Yeah.
So right after Steed has his whole heart-to-heart with Mary, which is beautiful, it transitions to Ed on the back of the ship as Debussy plays, and it's beautiful. And he is holding the red silk, and I'm gonna cry. He's holding the red silk, but the transition between him holding it and then cutting to the scene where Steed takes it out of his hands from episode 5 is the smoothest freaking transition in television history. It is beautiful. She left me. Where'd she go? Oh no. We're both very unwell. We just saw Steed reminisce on all the moments that he's had with Ed that were important to him. And for us to see Ed reflect on the "you wear fine things well" scene, I feel like is so much, because like we knew, like when we first watched that, like Ed was like, I'm gonna kiss him now. Oh, he's not ready. Okay, I won't. But like he was clearly feeling something in that moment, and that was so important to them, and it stuck with him, because not only was it that Steve was straight up flirting with him, whether he knew it or not, but he, like, Steed is the one who, like, we've talked about the red silk being basically like a metaphor for Ed's heart. Yeah. And for Steed to take such gentle care with it, and now Ed is throwing it away into the ocean. And it's so heartbreaking, and it made me violently sob when we were watching it today, because I just wasn't emotionally prepared for that. Never am.
Buckets. The living room is flooded.
Also, what I really like about the flashback is it's closer on them in this moment than it was in episode 5. So when we see like their silhouettes against the moon, the camera's further back, but in this one it's much closer. Yeah. Which much like you were saying, how like the world is closing in on him when he's transitioning into the Kraken. It's like he was like holding that scene like close to him because it's so important to him. Right. And then he just throws it away. And it makes me sad. But I don't think that's the last we see of the red silk. Oh. I think Steve's going to find it, and it's going to be a whole thing, and I'm going to cry about it.
It would also be uber weird if they just, like, it was just gone.
They're like, nah.
That's not coming back.
It's floating in the ocean. Silk is very buoyant, so.
We know this. So, Caitlin, who are your standout characters in this episode?
Oh, Mary. 100%. I just, like, I agree with you in saying, like, I'm glad that she was like a fleshed out character, and the entire time, like, there's no way you can root against her. No, I don't think you can, because she was so right in everything that she was doing. Like the entire time, I'm like, Steve, you have no right to be mad that she's with Doug, or like act like, oh well, like you should get rid of that title because it doesn't make any sense now because you're not a widow. I'm just like, boy, you left. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, that's not how this works. Like, you have no right to be angry or whatever. Like, you're the one who abandoned your family. And just the fact that she was able to thrive and just be her own person and be who she wants to be, much like Ed got to be who he wants to be. And Steed is learning and is soon able to be who he wants to be. Like, I was really glad that she got that as well. Right. And I also just really thought it was funny the way that she was gonna murder Steed in his sleep, and then when he was like, you were gonna stab me in the ear hole, and she's just like, yeah, I was. Like, she's so nonchalant about it. She's proud, yeah. And then she's like, no, I thought about smothering you with a pillow. I was getting a gun, but it'd wake the kids. Like, she's thought about this. And just to see her like just live her own life and just be so happy, and also win in the end, and like have money and live with Doug and her kids and just be happy. It was just really great to see. Yes. Yeah, I really would like to see more of her someday.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, I'm super impressed by how they took this character that could have been like a one-off character and made me like fall in love with her, actually. Yeah. Because I think you're absolutely right that they let her be her own person, and that she got to be her own person without Steed, and then like that was like the remedy to things was for Steed to leave again, and that Steed finally somehow could come to understand that when he realized he was in love with Ed. Yeah. Amazing episode. I mean, this is an episode I think it's one that I don't rewatch quite often if I do, just because it hurts. But I'm realizing as I'm watching it again that it might be one of my favorites just because like there's so many details, and because I don't watch it so much, some of it just kind of hits anew. But Mary is definitely one of my favorites. I would say Mary and Ed really ruled this episode for me. Yeah. To me, this is their episode. Oh, yeah, 100%. Because I think that in the way that in Discomfort in a Mary State kind of plucked out the problems in Mary and Steed's marriage, and then kind of use that to flip and then contrast with Ed, who really deeply appreciates a lot of the things that Steed does. You now see the way that Steed's decisions are having an impact on both Mary and Ed's life once again in this episode. Yeah. Which is great. I think this show does a really, really good job at mirroring, which I'm excited to talk about at the end of the podcast. But I think they both did an amazing job this episode. Mary's character is amazing. I I really appreciate her. Like, she's amazing. When I think about the possibility of there being more like strong women characters in the show, she's somebody I look to just because of, I feel like, her personality. All of my favorite quotes were from her. She just does an incredible job. Ed obviously is just haunted, and he goes through all of the phases in this episode, from being tortured and sad and like crying to being like to healing and kind of demonstrating
acceptance,
some growth, to not healing, to like going back into this really toxic space and becoming kind of bloodthirsty and angry and mad again and like killing somebody. Yeah. We just started to talk a little bit about our favorite quotes from this episode. Did you want to share yours?
Well, my very favorite quote is Ed. His name is Ed, because I think it's just the finality in which Steve says it, and just like the way he's just like, oh, that's what this is. Like it was his italicized O moment, you know? And just like to hear him acknowledge that like he is in love. Whether like he's not even using those words, like saying I'm in love, but I just think that it was just so beautiful. Other than that, I also really liked at the beginning when Izzy is telling the crew about Ed's state, and Frenchie goes, so he's sick but he's doing well is the news, and Izzy just goes, yeah.
That's the news.
I also really liked when Pete says way visceral. It's just really funny to me. And then another favorite Mary quote is when she goes, I hate to say it, but it would have been so much better if you actually died.
Yeah, I know.
Just a casual way in which she says that.
She's like, yeah, actually.
Like, I really wish. Yeah. I also really liked the scene with Steed when he's talking to all of the people in the bar, and they're asking him, they're like, oh, what's Blackbeard really like? And his knee-jerk instinct is to say, oh, he's absolutely lovely, which I think is so sweet. And they all look at him like, okay.
Him?
And then he goes, I mean, yeah, he's a bloodthirsty killer, sure. But then also when they ask him if he's killed anybody, and he says like he's seen death, and then he just goes, it changes you. And like, once again, Rhys Darby's acting is incredible, because it's like immediately the tone shifts and everything is like kind of sad and despondent, and you can see how like the torment on his face, so where he clearly misses being out on sea at the moment, is like so hurtful.
Ow.
How about you?
For me, both of my favorite quotes were Mary quotes. Of course, the one about idiosyncrasies, that quote that she shares with Steed about Doug. Ow. But then another one that again has to be one of my favorites in the entire season is when they're sitting at the dinner table after Steve discovers that Mary is out kind of shagging Doug.
Good for her.
Yeah. And
it's pretty realistic.
He's just kind of being the worst about it.
Yeah.
And she sets down her newspaper at the table and she goes, you're home. Fine. We're married. All right. We made a contract in front of God, and I'm bound to honor that, but in your absence, I've made a life that I quite like, and I will not destroy that because you've chosen to abandon your family on a whim. Yeah. I'm sorry, but like, I use that tone all the time now when I'm fighting with somebody. I'm like, you want to do this? Okay. Okay, fine. And you'll do this as well. Fine. You know, it's so good. It's just her delivery. It gets me every time.
So good.
So that was mine. I can't believe we're about to talk about this. It seems like the end of an era.
Yeah, I know.
Or at least, quite a long time filming and talking about this show.
Yeah.
But Caitlin, how did the end of this episode treat you?
Where's season 2? I need it. I really do love the ending of this. I love the shot of Steed like on the beach. Like he's literally like facing the ocean, and you can see like he's just like, yeah, time to go.
There's some sureness about him.
Yeah, like
that was missing before.
Yeah, he's definitely way more sure of himself, and just like, to me, like that shot of him like taking his rowboat and like going out into the ocean is just like him finally going into a life like a little bit more comfortable and something that he's always wanted. And I just think it's so like beautiful. All of the shots of him on that scene. I also appreciate, again, even though it hurts me, that we see that Ed was crying, so that he's not just straight up like the Kraken and he's all tough and like over it and everything.
Which we also know because he's still kind of bound by Steed's ascot.
He still has the cravat, which is so important to me. But I really like that they showed him just sobbing his eyes out because he's clearly not over it, and he kept the lighthouse painting despite throwing everything else away. So, and I think that's really important to show that Edward Teach isn't completely like buried underneath the surface. You know, like he's still there, but he's basically not allowed to show it anymore, which is really, really unfortunate. And I just am always so mad because he was healing, and then Izzy messed it all up, and I'm forever mad about that. Yeah. But we'll see what happens in season 2. Yeah. What about you?
I loved it. I felt like it was a great place for the season to land. I think at the end of episode 9, I was kind of like, oh my God, okay, they're together. Now what? You know? Yeah. And then things kind of went off on, you know, the rails after that. So I thought this was a good ending because it not only, I think if it had been one thing if it ended with episode 9 and you see Ed becoming upset and whatever, but I think it was great that they got to show the emotional journeys that each person, Ed, Steed, and Mary, each go on because of this decision that Steed has made. Yeah. And I like that Ed kind of goes through all of the colors of emotion before he lands on Blackbeard or the Kraken. Yeah. So I'm really excited to see where that takes him next season. I also like that once again we have the parallel of the flag being raised like it was at the end of the season. And this time it is Blackbeard's flag, but with the little arrow through the heart. Bleeding hearts. Yeah. Ow.
It hurts.
Which obviously is like the actual Blackbeard's flag, which is so funny. It's almost like somebody asked a thesis question one day that was, why is there a little heart on the corner of the flag? And this happened.
And David Jenkins is like, because his heart was broken.
Let me tell you about why. Here's 10 episodes.
Here's 10 episodes why those exist.
Which obviously those things don't compare because the real Blackbeard, we have no idea who he was, but probably insane and racist and scary.
And a piece of shit, yeah.
Caitlin, we did it.
We did it, Joe.
We got to the end of season 1. We have just finished episode 10. Before we talk a little bit about season 2, I think we should definitely rate this episode on our tier list. It's only right. What are our tiers, Miss Girl?
Our tiers are screaming down our face. No, but our tier list is it made me eat all of my house's drywall and the accompanying nails. Made me mentally ill, affectionate, neutral like my pH balance, made me mentally ill, foreboding, and Riverdale core.
Where have you put this on your tier list?
So I really feel bad for all the contractors I've had to hire to rebuild my house over and over again because I keep eating all the drywall and the nails. But girl's got to eat and sustain herself. It's making me eat all the drywall and the accompanying nails. I can't rank it any lower. I don't think I rated anything lower than the neutral all season. But
I mean, there wasn't anything, to be so fair, that happened this season that was Riverdale core.
No.
And if anything Riverdale core happens next season, I think I'll be wholly disappointed and surprised.
We made the tier list knowing nothing was going to go there.
I think the only justifiable reason to rate something Riverdale core other than it being shitty is if a literal if fucking
Cole Sprouse
himself shows up. Yeah.
KJ Appa.
Yeah, KJ Appa. If they're not in this next season, then it's not worth it for us to ever use that rating for this show specifically.
Is it even worth it?
Yes.
There's not an episode that I dislike about this show. And I have high hopes that that'll continue next season because I'm just really excited and I trust the writers to do a good job. This episode just makes me so batshit insane because I just remember ending it and being like, so when's season 2 coming out? And when we finished it, we didn't know if that was ever going to happen. So that was agony. But even knowing that it's coming and that they finished filming at this point of recording, which is January, it's still agony not having it. And I still like, I think it's the first show that I've watched where I've been so into it and so excited that like I can't believe that we're gonna be getting new scenes and new characters and like we're all gonna see them again, and I can't wrap my tiny brain around it. Yeah. And I'm excited and I'm scared, but I'm nervous, but I'm excited and I'm emotional about it. But I'm so excited.
For me, this episode, I'm going to put this at mentally ill affectionate. And it's not because I don't want to eat any more of my house's drywall. But it's simply because I don't think I could rate any episode I don't want to put too many episodes up there with episode 9 in part, and also because I have a lot of mentally unwell affection for Mary.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I capture the affection that I have for Mary in my rating. Hence, I'm putting it at that level on the tier list.
I like it.
So, Caitlin, before we hop off and conclude this series, I think we should talk a little bit about season 2, which we have a little bit already. But I think it would be worth it for us to rehash. First and foremost, what are you excited about for season 2?
I'm excited to see it.
I'm excited for a release date.
Yeah. I'm really excited to just see how. So of course this episode ended with Steed finding the crew abandoned. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited for that conversation, for him to be like, what happened?
Yeah.
And just like for his journey to finding Ed, and how quickly are they going to find each other. I've always felt strongly about them seeing each other again at the end of episode 3 of season 2.
Like a parallel thing.
To parallel the fact that they first met each other at the end of episode 3 in season 1. I think that'd be really cool. All we need to see is them see each other. Some amazing song plays, and then it cuts to black. That's all I need. And that'll be great.
Good enough for me.
Good enough for me. Yeah, it's just our prayer again.
Yes, it sure is. It's my prayer.
I really like that. I'm interested to see if there will be any new characters popping up and who that may be. There are three things that I'm really interested in. Is one, how Lucius survived, because we all know he did. You can't fool us. 2, when Steed finds the red silk, will it just become a part of his wardrobe? Will he like hand it back to Ed, and is that how like they start their conversation again?
Good question.
I really like the headcanon that Ed didn't get rid of anything in Steed's wardrobe.
Yeah, the auxiliary wardrobe. The secret wardrobe, if you will.
The secret wardrobe. Because no one else in the crew knows about that, and I don't think Ed would have shown them that, and we don't see them go into it at all. So I still think that everything is in there, and the lighthouse painting might go in there sometimes too. Maybe when he doesn't want Izzy or anyone else to see that he kept it. So there's that. I'm also super interested in how Jim and Frenchie are going to be next season. I know a lot of people really want them to get their Blackbeard like leather outfits, which I think would be really
dope.
Cool.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see their dynamic, and like if they both will like team up together and try to like, I don't know, like maybe go against Ed in some way. I really think that they wouldn't take his shit, you know, especially Jim. Yeah. Like, I feel like Jim would be like, get your head out of your ass. Like, what is all this about? Like, what happened? And if Lucius is in fact hiding in the walls, I think he'll talk to Ed about it too.
I'm looking forward to being reintroduced to Steed again as the person he is, post fuckery and post everything that he's been through with Ed, and since that Mary. Yeah. Something that he mentions in this last episode is like that death changes you. And I'm kind of in this place where I'm like, say more about that. Like, how has death changed you? We obviously see that he's super aggressive with Doug when he shows up to Mary's art show. Yeah. But I'm kind of looking forward to see more of that person next season. Somebody who maybe is like a little more, not bloodthirsty, but like less likely to take shit now that he's kind of learned the ropes of what it is to be a pirate. Yeah. I think he's still learning, and he's still going to be the same little guy.
The same little guy.
As before, but I really hope that we see his growth this season. And likewise, I hope that Ed gets to heal this season from everything that happened to him last season and does not spend the whole season. Though if he did, I wouldn't be surprised, like, in the horrors of the Kraken.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to make up right away.
No.
It's gonna be a while.
I am also very much looking forward to hopefully having Olu and Jim reunite. That'd be nice, and also Lucius coming back because he's obviously not dead.
He's not dead.
You can't fool me. Like David Jenkins, Nathan Fode, y'all can like show up to my house with like photographs of Lucius being dead, his dead body.
Corpse or it didn't happen. Yeah. That's a terrifying thing to ask an actor for. That's super
Let me see scary.
Your corpse. The character's corpse.
Corpse or it didn't happen. Yikes. All right. And then, you know, I'm excited for more of the crew. I want to learn more of their backstories. I want more buttons.
More buttons.
I want more Wee-John. I want more Frenchie. I just...
I want more Swede.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I just am really excited for them to hopefully reunite by the end of the season. Not just Ed and Steed, but, like, the entire crew.
Everybody, yeah.
And I want some good filler episodes. I just want some episodes where nothing happens. But, like, some things happen, but they're just fun things, not sad things.
Yeah.
David.
Please.
Please.
Please let them be fun.
Please let them be fun. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of By Moonlight and for our Flag Means Death Season 1 series. Woo-hoo. If you are watching us on YouTube, then please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And if you are listening on Spotify or one of your other favorite podcast streaming services, then don't forget to give us a like or a rating or whatever they do on
Follow us.
Said streaming app.
They do all the things.
Unclear.
Let us know.
So join us again when season 2 comes out. We'll be sure to release some videos where we have some little chitty chat about that.
Oh yeah.
Or perhaps even react to them.
Oh yeah.
And please also stick around because we'll be reviewing other movies, television, and books as the year goes on.
Woohoo.
Whee!
Goodbye.
Bye.